So just like I demonstrated, my hand is just going to initiate here. Here meaning if you just think of the exterior of the hip joint, so you're not right in the hip joint or going near the sit bones. I want the exterior of the hips to get affected, because what it is that exterior also needs to look for the table when it comes down.
Okay.
Right? And most people only think that they're sitting on the two sit bones. I get that. But what I'm looking for is how the tush presents back, as well as that initial lift. So my hand is right underneath her shoulder. So as I'm lifting over to my opposing hand. And see how, again, it doesn't even look like I'm touching her.
Yeah.
So I'm not doing this kind of thing. She's not on a horse.
Okay.
I'm thinking extension, but when it gets more up, then I'm going to lift lightly my hand to receive it. So I'm going to lift my left fingers into my right hand. So keep the one hand under the pelvis like it's been doing. You can come back right to this area of the spine.
Okay.
To stimulate. So my rotation actually are the forefingers going down
Okay.
as the thumb is going up. So it's almost like opening a door or that safe. Because see, if I just touched forward, if I just applied a touch, which was more the way I was kind of trained, then the system's going to want to go forward, and that's not what I'm looking for. I don't want any of that, quote, rocking. I want that rotation there. There she goes. See, to shift through the pelvis and get that extension through the spine.
Okay. Now I can feel them respond.
Yeah, and then stop. So then put the initial movement and just see if that makes a difference just from that. Don't worry now that if his back is rounded or anything like that. Right now we're just on this movement. And again, if he did well, you can do that whole rotation here. And you can literally ride the whole spine. You just have to watch and now I just went fast, but just to show you hand placement.
So I can just travel from
right
down here to here and then just switch my hand here.
Right, because even let's say here, so just go for extension with this hand, so just reach. So see, watch her reach without me, and then just relax. And now watch the difference with that turn. So go to reach. See just the difference of me initiating, but see just the difference of just.
Yeah. It's a whole new movement.
Yeah. So now, can you tighten your bum that your hips actually go up and in? So see how there she gets the same back response. So even here, see how I'm just, and just from me just doing this little bit, it's hard for her to even keep those contractions. She automatically wants to start releasing. So just relax. Oh, Happy New Year.
Okay, I would really feel his leg dangling now, on and off.
Yeah. So now what you can do is take the thumb, not on the one side of the spine, but the same where the hand is on. So my right hand, it's to the right, and I'm just. But it's like a pull, but the pull is not left right. As I move the thumb over, the fingers are going up, so the extension are coming up under the shoulders. So I'm just, there we go. See that light? But eventually what this will lead to is where you can also get this to start to happen, where she's coming around her spine towards me.
Okay.
But try the movement without the hands under the hips, and you'll see such a difference on how the body's responding, because even though that's a valid movement, you're not working on the extension of her spine. When you're just here, her spine automatically now wants to go into an extension and move around the extension. He's not used to moving around the extension. And see already now, look at how much his feet now are totally down. And now the back's starting to be able to sway in. Do you see the difference? Or
I do. I do.
does this make sense to what you were looking for?
It does.
There you go. There you go.
Do you see that?
Yeah. And see now how he's countering? Joy can see it more here, but his feet are coming in and how he counters over the pelvis.
It's getting quicker.
Yeah. And that's where I discuss, but still not well enough yet when writing, that how that acceleration increases. And this is where, do you know on a gyroscope, when you go to use a gyroscope and it's not done properly and the energy is lost, right? But you know when a gyroscope starts functioning properly, the energy actually increases. I think that's the same principle what you're seeing there. When you're seeing that his acceleration is increasing, it's those same principles in the momentum of the gyroscopic function. That rotation, when it's done properly, that's where you see kids get more energy as they start to play, because they're rolling and spinning around and they get that same momentum. That's what I believe, again, when you're touching with rotation, it affects that quickness or that acceleration that's there. Now, a variation of this too, you can have a stool under his feet so he has something to put his feet on and he can play off of that. Again, where you have the stool or something in between his legs so his legs are more apart. Again, it doesn't have to be done today, but these are just variations of the same lesson that you can think of. Listen, now that he's been, quote, moving so much, you should be able to start feeling, let's say, what I call a glitch in the system. Now, she has one spot in her back where her muscles, so if I go here, she's freer. If I go here, she's freer. But right here, see, she doesn't want to respond that same way. And that's where, now my hand's still under the pelvis, and I'm talking to this spot in her back where I'm going into that light lift. And again, this is where I really make my movements very, very minute there. And then her system collapsed. So now I just come back and reinforce this area. But this is where I want the counterbalance to go back and forth this way, as well as this way and sideways. I mean, that's where the pelvis is so unique. It should counter each way. But if there's a kink in the system, then you're going to throw the pelvis off. So it's very similar to like a top, the top that you play with as a kid. If you just put a piece of gum on the top, it just, that momentum totally is changed. So it's the same thing. So if there's just a kink in the system, if there's no kinks, then the pelvis goes and spins like a little top. But now, like, so tighten your pinky. See, I don't have, this doesn't spin, so let the hand go. So there, then it spins. But that's the whole job with the spine in this position, is to look for any little spots in the back that are going to create where that pelvis can't respond in a very symmetrical fashion.
So as I work like this on the pelvis,
right?
Can I do the rotation anywhere?
Absolutely. So what I was starting to do now, I can go up to her neck. Can I take your scarf off, please? Or can you? So now when I put my hand here, especially when the system has CP or anything like that, where you don't want to add to the system, I'm teaching her this. Her daughter just got glasses, and it's unbelievable how those glasses are kind of acting more like this. You know, where it's just too much on her system. When I touch like this, I almost want where, like I have a string off her back. So I want that extension to be there. I don't want to add to her inflection. So I can do this by lightly going into the scapula, but see, just when I did that, her body didn't know what to do with that. So she's just stayed sort of crooked. If I do it over here, she might be a little bit different now because she doesn't know. See this. See how I should be able to counter and counter. If I do it on this side, now I haven't worked on this side, see how I can't counter that movement.
Yeah.
So if I push in through here, see how she counters and counters. If I go here, there's no countering, and that's what you're going through. So again, the hand under the tush, and you just want to start that rotation. It's that same hand movement. What?
But is your thumb near the C7? Was your thumb near the C7? Or
C7 would be right here. My thumb is about the lower shoulder blades where they would go across at first. Because what I'm looking for is this section of the back to start to rotate.
Yeah.
And hers does, see, she wants to do it this way, but not this way. That's a very hard spot on my back as well. But I'm doing it, most people want to do this, and they go in very intense. What I'm looking for is that counter. See, pelvis up, the shoulders rotate, and that's crawling. So when the child hasn't crawled, they're not getting that automatic response. Does that make sense?
It does.
But see, I'm not kneading that area. I'm allowing that movement to go through the pelvis up into my other hand. So it's a very slow, symmetrical movement. There you go. Now she's already, finally. And again, her tush is relaxed. So now go into an extension reach with this. So see again now how much more, but see how her pelvis counters. So see, she's not going to fall down because of how much that pelvis is countering that width of that arm.
Yeah, the left tush is like going boop, boop.
Right. But see how far back her tush is with that reach. So tighten this hand, and now reach. See the difference? See how the tush doesn't want to come back to counter that extension. So release the hand. See the difference. And that's the biggest difference you'll get with cerebral palsy and with low tone, is that, again, that ability to counter narrows. So I don't want, see, people see this as spastic. I'm seeing that as that relationship's down to here. Do you know what I mean? I'm looking for, but any child under 10 will have to place a hand down and reach out, because they don't have that relationship that they can go way out. And I can do that. I'm not going to fall over, but I have a higher level of counterbalance. Does that make sense?
It does.
But like again, so people see this as CP, but I see that as their counterbalance is this big. I'm looking to extend that relationship. So as I've done work here, I can again go back to almost these same movements, because again, I'm trying to get that pelvis to have such a better relationship with coming down into the tush. So now if I were to come around and do the first movement, to come back here, look at how far she can come back on her tush and she's still not falling down. But if I do the same thing over here, see, she's falling. Do you see
and her right foot just came up.
Right, but so you see the difference on how much more. See, even this, see how she still hasn't technically fallen? Because I can just throw her back up. But here, I can't throw her, she's already, now I have to lift her back up. I want that weight transfer to happen. But see how far she can go? Here, see the foot's up? And here, she's just roll down, but I can roll her back up. It's no longer a fall. Do you see the difference in the quality of the movement?
She has a rotation when she falls.
She has a rotation, but that's where her subsenses are weak. She doesn't have the counterbalance to affect that. That's why you take a gyroscope, and you should be able to place it from one object to the next. Do you know what I mean? That centrifugal force continues as you move. So when you lose that kind of thing, that's where that whole momentum, the velocity, that acceleration, halt. Because now I have to protect myself from falling.
Got it. Okay. So the more I work on the pelvis, the better he's going to get with this, right?
Right, because he's saying don't fall, balance by tightening the back. I want him to say don't fall, balance, because I have a nice gyroscope and I can go anywhere I want. You'll see this with older people. They get very rigid in talk because that's what they're saying is don't fall, don't fall. But again, that counterbalance goes down. And again, I can just still stop and just explore and see if I find any kinks. But again, right now, how she can come over to her left tush because of all this work we've just done. But see again, that's walking. See how the rib cage can float back and forth over the pelvis. If I'm on her right side, see already now she's fallen. I have to catch her first. So if she's falling, how's she going to walk? One movement is going to cancel out the other. So the more and more this pelvis comes into play, see how the back is learning how to do all these movements? But guess what? That's when the back learns how to come up and can come down and come up. You get so much more movement out of the back now.
Now there's a strength.
There's strength, but again, notice that sway. There's a counter. So here's a round. It counters. It counters. Do you see that? It's not just the looseness or the flexibility. is the counter. When she comes up and forward, notice how her sit bone, this is where I can visualize well. See how her pelvis tilts and counters. So when I bring her back like this, see how her pelvis is now here. So see? So that even that iliac crest is countering every movement around the spine. So now stiffen your back through here. So see, again, I have a very limited conversation with that pelvis because the back is staying more rigid. Relax. So now work with his back a little bit and see if you notice a difference. See, I already see a difference, and especially in his bicep where he has much more extension where he's playing. Also, what's starting to happen, which I can see as well, notice the extension with his elbow as he comes away versus needing to go like this. With TP, this wants to stay the same versus, see how my hand is the same, but I can move away from it. And see that with his elbow, I can really see it with his right arm. So does
I
this...
feel so much of tonus in him, and it's just not, allowing me to.
I know, but that's where you can't, you have to back off from that
So
tendency to want to, that's where I sit here and do all those, here, Di, I don't want to lose you. That's when I sit here and do all those little detailed little, it's so soft, it's so... Because that's what that high tonus is. He does not know how to be soft. So you have to offer him soft. It's a real tendency with most therapies to get in there and really want to manipulate that system.
It just takes a lot of time to get into the system, but once I'm in, it's so much easier to go with the movements that I'm working on.
Now, but go back to what you've been working on now from doing this pelvis work. Do where, like you said, you've been working on the upper extension and see if that's different now from what you're used to feeling.
I don't.
You don't feel it?
Or maybe he's excited with his game and I just can't feel the movements.
So you don't feel that you can lift his back at all? Okay.
Here it's so rigid.
And it feels the same like you always see it? See, I see where his feet are down and you know what I mean, like he's still sitting a bit better, but
I could really feel it traveling at least till here,
okay.
a bit than I first started, but it's just not.
Well, now feel it from the other side then. Switch hands and see if you notice a difference then from the...
He just shifted. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He just shifted a bit.
Yeah. Now do you feel a difference now this side? See, when you see this side, see how his neck shortens. Do you see that? See how it shortens? Now do the other side. See the difference? See how his neck's getting longer? See how his head can come over? He pronates better. Do you see the difference?
I do.
So now go back on the right and look at the difference. See? The neck automatically shortens. Do you see that?
It does.
So now we'll start working with that side. Just slow it down, half the speed. Just look at the way his hands are playing and stuff. Go at the same speed.
Am I doing this with my left hand as if, is it this?
At first, the hand is just there to support the lift, but then eventually when you feel it going through the system, then you're gonna, it's
Oh, it's this.
yeah. So the fingers will go up. See, even she still doesn't know extension through that. There we go, this side. So think of the lift of a ballerina. You know, you want if the partner's lifting them through, they have their hand on the tush and they're lifting the chest cavity. So what I'm doing here, though, at least on her, I'm going to switch just again for camera angle, is she's a little, for whatever reason, she doesn't want to rotate through the rib cage this way. This way, no problem, but I'm still going to switch hands just to show you. So I'm just in here. So I'm tucking the ribs in the front and lengthening around the side. So to see the movement here again, because that's the beginning of extension. So on this side, I'm tucking under the ribs, and so I'm shortening the ribs a little bit on the one side where I'm lengthening here. That's extension. So here again, see how I'm tucking under the ribs and I'm going for extension. So now I'm going to go back on this side with her. Whoops. So see, I can't get it with this side. Do you feel it? Or I can't? There we go. See? And see, now her speed comes back. And also, again, it should be like a light where she's just walking in my hands.
And her pelvis is like so, the tone has changed. It's so great. You know, she's shifting so fast.
Yeah, even here. See now how she doesn't want to fall? She's not you know, now she's... But see how I can just take her back and then bring her right up. See the lightness even that I have with her? When you're working on someone like that, especially with extension, so just look at my back, right? If I had hands on it. So let's say I was going to go to the right and I'm going to go into an extension. Just watch my back movements here. So as I put my hand down, see, just putting my hand down, my spine shifts to give that hand the weight. If it doesn't give it the weight, then the spine stays here. So again, this is CP, right? I'm not transferring my weight. But hand over, do you see the difference?
I do.
Versus, see, I never transferred my weight, so my spine wants to stay. So as I transfer my weight to my hand, right, see now how I can rotate over to reach. So notice how these ribs want to contract or concave as the extension is here. So that's extreme, but even if he's playing with the iPad, do you see that? Contraction, extension. Contraction, extension. So when you're working here, just think of, and your fingers are like this, contraction, extension. Does that make more sense?
It does.
I mean, even the simple act, if you're going to the restroom, you know, and sitting on a toilet and going to get up. See, again, I'm here, I'm in contraction. My ribs here have to go into extension as I shift over my pelvis just to get up. So that's all we're working on right here. It's just that initial going from contraction and here to the lift of the pelvis into that expansion. So when you think of the movement, just think what your hands need to do to allow that to happen. And even with him, he's gotten much better at it. But when you don't have extension through the back, then the hands don't have this either. That's when the hands are more like this, and they want to palm down versus going into extension and reaching out. Does that make more sense?
It does.
But see again now look, the knees are open on him, and the feet are down. Before he was way more where the legs were together. So there's a lot going on that, there, he's countering with the feet. See, look at the sway of the pelvis and feel the sway with the feet. So before he wanted to do this with the feet, and now he's doing this, and that's crawling. Do you see that? That's the beginnings right there of crawling. Going up the steps, all of that. But you can't get into the back without those systems happening first. Because that's what happens. We crawl first, and then we sit up. So if the crawling didn't happen properly, that's where you lose those kind of movements that go into that sitting and extension. But see now how nicely now the back is moving even in this position for him. He still might be rounded, but his feet are down, his knees are open. See, if you go too fast, watch the feet. See? That's where you, as a practitioner, has to watch your client to go with their system.
Okay.
Because you want him to be able to start going fast without going into his habitual there. See how now he's leaning over his pelvis to reach for his iPad?
Yeah.
See, and the feet come down. Yeah, there, and the back is up.
Yeah.
See, too, how his tush is? When we first started, see his tush was like this? And now he's this. Can you see how the just that little bit in the bum? There. Look at how nice that is. And that's walking. So when, just like we started out with, so when the tush is up, right? How am I supposed to move my leg free, right? I don't have enough real estate. Now you're asking me to bring my legs up too. Now I'm really going to fall. So my contractions have to be, so now as the tush is released, see, I have much more real estate so I can do those things. So this and this, but if the tush is tight, you see, I go right into inflection. So if I bring my legs up, even more so. So now when I'm around, all of that you just worked on, that's why I'm excited more so that his knees are out more. See, when he started, he was like this, and now his legs are just naturally open, the feet are down. But now feel just in his position, him just presenting to a side sit. So even lying down, right, or here, so if my hips are tight, it's bringing my knees in, how am I going to get up? But as my tush releases like that, so yeah, tighten your tips, so contract the hips up like he does, and now try and bring your knee up. You can't do it because, right, so releasing the tush and that counter. But see when you counter, do it slowly. Notice how you contracted the ribs on the one side and you're released on the other. See how the lesson you just did is that.
And my breathing too, right?
Yep. So now contract the ribs on both, go back, legs straight, contract the ribs on both sides, and now try and bring the knee around. You see how it cancels out the movement? So what you were just doing, contracting the ribs, expansion, I can bring my knee up. See? So if you just worked on just this, honestly, for a good week or so, you should see a really big difference with all of that.
Okay.
Because I can be here now on all fours, and you're going to do that same lesson. Into the hip, into the, you can have a hand here. So into the hip, same lesson, but on all fours. I can be toe kneeling and do the same lesson. Do you see how it just complexes? However, if you put him on all fours and you see that his feet contract, that's when you have to slow down. Because when his feet contract, that means he has that sensation of a fall. And you need to back off to a point where he doesn't feel that fall is coming first and he needs to protect it. But when he's there playing and on the ball, right, now he's naturally working on extension, And you're just behind with the pelvis, making sure he counters. So when he goes to reach, you know what I mean? You want to counter that. Does that make sense?
It does.
So that way his movements are more successful.
Yeah. All the while being very slow and watch his breathing, right?
Yeah, but that'll come with time. I mean, right now the touch is still always the most important. That you're honoring his system. Once that touch is there, he should naturally do those things. But anything with the touch that disassociates him, then he'll respond back with the same, hey, you know. So in standing, same thing. You might have him where he's supported or his hands are against the wall or something, but it's the same thing. You're just going to be here with the tush. See? But you know what? That is walking backwards. You see how that initiates with that tush here? The tush lifts, I shift my weight, and I walk backwards. So that's where this movement becomes very significant in walking. When I go to walk, my tush will drop, my back will lengthen. But when I come backwards, you see how I initiate?
Automatically, it's just...
Yeah. The movement has to have some place to go. So if I'm here, you know what I mean? That's where it's a system. Release this, you know what I mean? It's just automatic. Yeah. But everybody wants to, but you can't have this, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't even do it. Yeah. But this movement too, to going up, you know, to an upward crawl, crawling up the steps. See? I lift my tush. I contract my ribs where this, you know, I mean, here. So it's that same movement. So it translates, and then here to extension, you know what I mean, that counter. So this movement just in sitting translates all the way up into standing and then running.